Destiny's Design and Fulfillment, audiobook. Behind the Scenes, Success Embedded Human DNA. By Mike Malek. About the author. Mike Malek is an Air Force veteran, who is driven by the desire to maximize the capability of computer hardware and software relating to Internet technologies. What really stimulates his creative juices is the increase in potential available through synergistically weaving together individual components into a more powerful and efficient package. He thrives on positioning himself to help people achieve their goals, maximize their potential and realize their dreams. Dedication. I dedicate this book to my parents. My mother never ceased to lavish her words of encouragement. Her hearers were rewarded with a new sense of vision and motivation. My father profoundly emulated the example of manhood and fatherhood, at a level few ever dreamed possible. He lived out loud and you never had to guess his stand on matters pertaining to life. Together their inspiration built an enduring foundation of love, strength, and beauty. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Acknowledgement. Thanks for the enduring loving support of my sweet wife, Ellie, the girl of my dreams, my life partner. While she may be a member of the fairer sex, she has always been a pillar of support and a tower of strength in my life. I would be significantly less of a man, without her beautiful companionship. Her constant encouragement and constructive critiques enabled this book to become a reality. Disclaimer. The content of this volume is not in any way intended to be a factual historical representation of events which have taken place in the spirit realm. The only way this would be possible is through direct divine revelation, and the author makes no such claim. The primary purpose of this work is to present a purely allegorical depiction of events, relating to the Creator establishing and implementing a destiny for every human life. The perceived identities of any individual depicted within this volume may or may not be purely coincidental. With minor exceptions, the author makes every attempt to refrain from referring to any actual person or individual by name. The overall objective of this work is to present the theme as an allegorical narrative. This work is not intended to be a theological discourse but presented for entertainment value and motivational purposes only. Introduction. We were created to be successful. It was hardwired into the blueprint of talents and abilities we have been born with. Each of us is uniquely gifted with a specific set of abilities for enabling us to achieve greatness. The key to realizing that greatness is to be aware of our abilities and how they can be used to accomplish our goals and passions in life. We have the exact tools we need to fulfill our appointed destiny. If we are hardwired for success, why aren't more of us realizing the life fulfillment we are so desperately craving? It would seem there is a bug in the program or a short circuit in the plan. Where is the disconnect? There is no glitch in the program. We just need to update our anti-malware software and reboot the system. We have been listening to a pack of lies relating to our success, which has been a Trojan horse denying us from realizing the fulfillment of our success. Once we realize the lies we have been believing are holding us back, we can begin to focus on the greatness we have been created for. It may seem oversimplistic, but this knowledge is power. Today is the day for you to begin focusing on your success. Your failures are behind you. Success is a mindset. It is, as a man thinketh, that determines the outcome of your efforts. What thoughts are you focusing upon? Those who fail to succeed spend too much time focusing on problems instead of solutions. The most important ingredient for achieving success is your focus factor. Whether you are focusing on being successful or worrying about failure, you are setting into motion your own personal self-fulfilling prophecy. Before you can achieve success, you must come to grips with the fact you may be your own worst enemy. It is inevitable we will always achieve what we focus upon. If we focus on failure, we will get exactly that. The same goes for success. Remember, success breeds success. This book chronicles an allegorical depiction of events, relating to the formulation and implementation of the Creator's plan. The primary premise of this book details the idea that every human to ever be created, has a unique individual plan and purpose, specifically designed by the Creator himself. Counter to this plan is a group of beings arrayed in total opposition to everything the Creator represents. This sets the stage for the ongoing battle of the ages, between good and evil, or light and darkness. At the epicenter is the quest for the hearts and minds of humans. The humans are the ones who retain complete control in this epic battle. The outcome is determined by the voice each human chooses to hear. We are in the driver's seat. We have complete control in the fulfillment of our own destiny. We are literally armed to the teeth, endowed with an armory of resources by the Creator. It is time to decide here and now, to filter out all the negative chatter and fully embrace our positive, affirming, visionary dreams. We are in charge of fulfilling our own destiny and no longer need to play the blame game. We oversee the command and control center of our own lives. Stop listening to the lies that continually bombard you and begin to live like the Creator intended. Plan unveiled. The sense of anticipation, among the members of the Guardian Guild, was extremely intense. They were gathering for an important meeting called by the Grand High Council. In the recollection of the attendees, there never was a time when such urgency was associated with an event. There was a frenzy of speculation circulating among the guild members concerning the intent of this gathering. As everyone in attendance would soon discover, the reason for this meeting was beyond the wildest theory anyone had yet contrived. The amphitheater where the guild members were assembling emanated in every direction, as far as the eye could see. It was a circular structure with a gradual upward incline, as each row radiated away from the center. The layout of amphitheater allowed for perfect visibility throughout the entire structure. The center contained an arena with a platform, upon which the members of the Grand High Council were now positioning themselves. Guild members were swooping in from every direction as they arrived from every corner of the cosmos. Each member settled into place as the appointed time was nearing. Specific rank and order were intrinsic to the eternal realm. They all knew their place and always performed with utmost precision. This was truly a well-polished throng, which now filled this heavenly grandstand. Trumpets announced the entrance of the council governor, also known as the Creator, followed by his attendants. Everyone in the amphitheater snapped to attention in honor of this premier magistrate. The governor moved to the center of the platform and ascended the stairway to a very ornate throne. There were thrones for everyone on the platform, arranged per the status and rank of the individual for whom they were reserved. None of them were as imposing or elegant as the one on center stage. As the governor stood in front of his throne preparing to be seated, thunderous applause and cheering filled the entire amphitheater. It was glorious to behold as lightning and all the colors of the rainbow emanated from the throne. As the governor sat down, he signaled for everyone else to do likewise. The secretary of the Grand High Council took the floor and everyone was listening in anticipation of what he was about to disclose. He was holding a magnificent-looking scroll, which he carefully unrolled. The scroll contained details of an elaborate plan and it was evident that much care went into its preparation. The secretary could scarcely contain his excitement as he began the presentation of the ages. The location for the new world has been selected, he began. This scroll contains the creation plan in its entirety. This world will contain an infinite number of life forms, each defying description. The environmental biosphere will be prepared in advance, containing everything required to sustain life on every level. Each individual life form will have access to an abundance of resources, to thrive within the realm of its existence. Each life form will contain an embedded code, to control the operation of each functional component within the organism. One of the functional components integrated into every life form will be the ability for it to reproduce after its own kind. This last statement was unprecedented. Up to this point, everything in creation came into being by the direct intervention of the Creator himself. It sounded as though this new world was going to be somewhat self-sustaining. It seemed like the Creator would be duplicating some of his creative powers within the dwellers of this new world. Giving life forms the power to duplicate themselves was truly a groundbreaking innovation in creation methodology. The secretary was beaming with delight as he continued his presentation. The higher-level life forms will have distinct roles in the reproductive process and will be designated as male and female. Each role in this process will be crucial to the thriving and multiplication of each individual species. The highest life form in this new world will be given complete authority to rule over all the other inhabitants within this world's biosphere. This life form will be our highest creation and will be patterned after the image and likeness of the Creator himself. This disclosure precipitated a perceptible hush upon everyone in attendance. Authority within creation were familiar concepts. However, the concept of duplicating the Creator's pattern in individual life forms was too mind-boggling to ponder. The secretary paused as a huge vault was brought out onto the platform. The secretary continued, contained within this vault are the detailed blueprints to be embedded within the structure of each of these beings. This race of beings will be called human and collectively known as humanity. The highest purpose of the members of the Guardian Guild, he continued, is to facilitate every aspect of creation within this new world. This includes monitoring and protecting these new life forms, most importantly, the humans. Each of you will be assigned to an individual human, before implantation within the reproductive component of the female. You will receive a copy of the blueprint relating to the destiny of that human. From that point, you will be the primary agent to implement the ordained plan for the human assigned to you. I will directly oversee every aspect of each plan and will provide the necessary resources to support you. Two members of the Warrior Guild swung open the door of the imposing vault, which occupied a significant area on the platform. As the secretary began retrieving several scrolls, he continued, each of these scrolls contains the blueprint detailing the plan and purpose of each human to ever occupy this world. Every human will be unique and fulfill a specific constituent of the divine purpose in this new world. Nothing or no one in the realm of creation was ever formed without a pattern and purpose, predetermined by the Creator himself. It would be no different with the inhabitants of this new world. The Creator took as much delight in the planning phase as all other phases of creation. The secretary took an infinite amount of time disclosing every detail of each scroll contained within the vault. The members of each guild listened attentively to every segment of the secretary's presentation. Every minute detail of each blueprint was noted with due diligence. These blueprints carried the weight of divine proclamation and guild members did not take this lightly. Divine proclamation implied direct publication of the Creator's decrees, disseminated throughout the entire realm of creation and held in highest esteem. The published blueprint of every human that will ever inhabit this new world was irrevocable, as far as the Creator was concerned. Every guild member was fully aware of this fact. They embraced the commission to implement and enforce these proclamations. You may wonder, if the plans, purposes, and destinies of beings were proclaimed openly and publicly, why would these scrolls need to be secured in a vault? The master copies were stored in a vault to prevent the possibility of tampering. Once a destiny was established, nothing or no one could do anything to change it, not even the Creator himself. The vaults containing documents of every description were in the repository of Records Hall. Members of the Warrior Guild administered the overall security of the hall and the individual vaults. The Messenger Guild members were responsible for every administrative detail relating to documentation, transcription, retrieval and dissemination. The entire operation was overseen by the Grand High Council Secretary. As the meeting concluded, elation over the revelation of the Creator's plan had a marked effect on the members of the various guilds. However, the members of one guild did not take kindly to the plan. Brewing jealousy. How anyone would embrace the latest revelation of the creation plan with less than complete fascination and amazement defied logic. The guild members in closest proximity to the very throne room should be the most enthusiastic supporters of the plan. Such was not the case with the elite members of the Covering Guild. From the very point of the plan's proclamation, jealousy began to seethe within the ranks of this guild. It began in the heart of the supreme, revered personal attendant of the council governor himself. As he and his followers contemplated the details of the plan, brewing jealousy fomented into the seeds of rebellion. The exalted guild leader fumed, if the Creator endows any group of beings with such an elevated level of authority, should it not be the members of our elite guild? Moreover, what of these humans, to be created in the very image and likeness of the Creator himself? Why would the Creator delegate procreative powers to these beings? If any group of beings should rule and reign, it should be us. The members of the Covering Guild formed a delegation to deliver an appeal to the Creator. The appeal went as follows: this proposed plan has flaws and cannot proceed. We members of the Covering Guild are the legitimate beneficiaries of this plan. It was no surprise that this appeal failed, hence the brewing jealousy intensified. The Creator's plan cannot be allowed to proceed and we must take matters into our own hands, was the theme that began to permeate throughout the ranks of this elite guild. A plan to counter the one promoted by the Creator was birthed at that time and would not end well for this guild, now drunk with power and authority. The Covering Guild members were the closest confidants of the council governor and their rank and authority was on par or exceeded that of Grand High Council members. All governing actions were intimated with the highest-ranking members of this guild before attaining status as formal proclamation. This had always been the case, before the recent proclamation relating to the plan of creation. Did the Creator intentionally bypass the Covering Guild members, knowing he would not garner their support? Ultimately, everyone was aware that the Creator was not bound to receive approval from any created being for his governing actions. All power and authority originated from him. He chose to delegate levels of authority to various created beings, even though he was not under compulsion to do so. The Covering Guild was tasked to provide a barrier for dividing the activities within the throne room from those outside. The Covering Guild members comprised the council governor's inner circle. These elite beings were completely immersed in every word spoken, even the very presence of the council governor himself. No decree or proclamation ever caught the Covering Guild members by surprise, until now. The question arose as to whether the Creator was trying to provoke the members of this vaunted guild to jealousy. The motives of the plan were being called into question. Had this guild become so accustomed to being part of the governor's inner council, that they felt immune to his mandates? Whatever the justification for the current activities of the Covering Guild, their reckless behavior threatened the stability of the entire heavenly realm. No being of any stature had ever challenged the very authority of the Creator. The call went out to the members of the Warrior Guild to prepare for battle. The members of the Guardian and Messenger Guilds were placed on high alert. The Covering Guild held the high ground and was preparing to take over the throne. The Covering Guild was so overconfident in this misguided venture, they were doomed to failure from the onset. An intense, heated battle ensued, which literally rocked the pillars of creation, and the realm of heaven was never to be the same. Never had brothers in the eternal realm been pitted against one another in such an explosive, cataclysmic struggle. Justice was served and a full third of the eternal realm was banished from the heavenly realm. The decay of jealousy infiltrated the heart of these formerly faithful guild members. This tragedy changed everything, upsetting the balance of order within the eternal realm. The guild members continuing to serve the Creator now maintained constant vigilance against these newly inaugurated powers of darkness. Heaven remained on high alert and would not stand down until the realm of darkness was completely vanquished. Only senior leaders of the former covering guild retained limited restricted access to the heavenly realm. Access to the heavenly realm was completely revoked from the other former members of that elite guild. Access to various realms was strictly defined and governed by the Creator himself, along with the level of access. Individual guild members were granted access to specific realms depending the need to perform designated functions. Higher rank and privilege allowed for a wider range of access. Access could be limited to a single realm or multiple realms, depending upon the need for access by each individual guild member. The fallen covering guild members, now known as the powers of darkness, had only limited restricted access to the planetary realm of creation. While they retained the ability to use powers given them by the Creator, those powers could be defended against by the guild members in service to the Creator. Thus, the epic battle between light and darkness would now continue to be waged until the fullness of time. Everything the Creator represented would now face full unrestrained frontal attack. His armies would be called upon to continually repel and defeat these onslaughts. The powers of darkness would not be easily dissuaded from promoting their evil intents. Since the covering guild was no more, elite members from various guilds were chosen to fill a bare minimum of the positions vacated by the now defunct guild. This was a temporary measure, as the Creator planned for the new race of humans to provide permanent replacements. This would add fuel to the fire of an already heightened state of animosity held by the powers of darkness toward the humans. Restored biosphere. The time arrived for the creative process to commence, by restoring the new biosphere. This world had been plunged into complete chaotic disarray, because of the epic battle between the powers of light and darkness. The hordes of darkness' primary mode of operation, win or lose, was to leave a wide path of destruction in their wake. The tangible presence of the Creator's Spirit enveloped the disconnected conglomeration of matter, primordial substance completely devoid of life. As the Creator's proclamations began to reverberate through every particle of disconnected matter, patterns began to emerge. Disorder transformed into order as the creative process was reactivated in this new world. Not a single member of the eternal realm ever tired of witnessing the results of the Creator in action. It was beautiful to behold, and the creative design of his plan was evident during every phase and in every detail. The process was as enjoyable to behold as the results. It was evident the Creator reveled in every minute detail, as the creative process unfolded. Raw materials were literally being transformed into masterpieces of stunning beauty. The resultant handiwork was not always evident during the process because the Creator delighted in the element of surprise. This only added to a boundless impression of amazement, as each artistic derivation emerged. Light separated from darkness, water from land, sky from earth, as boundaries in this new world were re-established. Life forms of every description emerged from land, sea, and air. Plants and animals occupied a specific niche, each uniquely designed for the environment of their habitation. The Creator delegated authority and functions to every being within the realm of creation. However, the act of creation itself required his direct involvement and active participation. All that remained for the members of the eternal realm was to be amazed spectators, as this wonderful event transpired. Every minuscule facet of his creative work contained his very own signature, which no clever forgery could hope to duplicate. The planetary biosphere was completely restored and abundantly filled with every life form, replenished per the Creator's design. The Creator took note of all his work and was pleased with the outcome. All creation voiced affirmation in unison with the Creator, "It was very good." The stage was now set for the Creator to begin his finest work, forming man in his own image and likeness. To witness the event about to unfold, was an indescribable honor. To create substance out of nothingness or fabricate something from raw materials, was a notable achievement and profound to behold. What was about to occur, had never transpired in the realm of creation. The Creator knelt on the ground and scooped up handfuls of moist dirt. He began to delicately fashion the dirt into the shape of a being that closely resembled himself. He crafted the shape with such care and tenderness, that any who witnessed this event became more intimately aware of the Creator's love. After what seemed like an immeasurable amount of time, the Creator was satisfied everything was as he desired. Laying on the ground was the lifeless form of the first human, completely crafted by the Creator's hands. While kneeling on the ground before this motionless figure, he bent over and breathed his own breath into the nostrils of this lump of clay. Immediately this inanimate handcrafted masterpiece became a living being. The members of the spirit realm are entirely spirit beings, which included their bodies. This newly created being had a body formed from raw organic material and an inner life force imparted by the breath of the Creator. This human was certainly his greatest creative achievement, not an understatement by any stretch of the imagination. This being represented the male of this new race of beings known as humans. The female was also directly formed by the hands of the Creator. These two beings were given the ability to populate the entire biosphere, through the process of procreation. That these would be the only two beings of this race, directly formed by the Creator, was new to the realm of creation. The ability of procreation would serve to multiply the members of this new race of beings. Each human would receive half the embedded genetic code from the father and half from the mother. This resulted in every human existing as a completely unique individual with a Creator imparted the inner life force. The life force within the spirit-breathed biological containment vessel was as unique as the vessel itself. This is the design trademark of the Creator's handiwork. No two humans throughout the entire age of creation will ever be identical. The Creator delighted in the concept of the complete uniqueness of every individual human. Integrated into the embedded genetic code of each human, was the ability to achieve complete success in every venture and on every level. This attribute was directly modeled after that same quality of the Creator himself. Only one single caveat could prevent the members of this new race from realizing anything less than complete positive outcomes, in every attempted endeavor. The powers of darkness would do everything to fully exploit this caveat. Their tools of deception and misdirection would prove effective and indispensable in this venture. Weakness exploited. The powers of darkness gathered to determine if there was a way for the destiny of these two humans to be changed from the Creator's blueprint. If these beings followed the mandates of the Creator, there was no way the outcome of this race could be tampered with. Success was ingrained into the root structure of these beings and nothing could avert the Creator's plan for them. If they listened to the Creator's voice, they could not be forced to deviate from their destiny. The only way to change the course of mankind was inciting them to listen to another voice. This exploit had to be accomplished in an artful way. The Prince of Darkness would not trust anyone but himself, in such a decisive maneuver. There was too much at stake and doubtless limited future opportunities to pull this off. Once the cover of darkness was blown, the humans would become extremely wary of future attempts. The evil prince would formulate his appeal based upon intellectual rationalization. He would call into question the motives of the Creator. It was determined the only way this could succeed was to isolate one of these beings, and the woman was chosen for this purpose. The Dark Prince was at odds with the Creator and devised a plan to lure the man and woman away from his protection. He caused the woman to focus upon the supposed inconsistencies of the Creator's instructions. The woman yielded to this logic and persuaded the man to disregard certain mandates from the Creator. Painfully, the full realization of their deception came after it was too late for recourse. The Creator was immediately aware of the breach. Attempting to shift blame only sealed the curse they brought upon themselves. This act of indiscretion broke the loyalty pact between the Creator and his creation, tarnishing this beautiful relationship. The Creator himself breathed life into man and he became a living being. Mankind was designed never to face death, while they remained under the Creator's protection. When the Creator was removed from the equation through this loyalty breach, death began its cruel reign. Yet, the Creator had formulated a revision to the original plan, to restore the breach and renew the relationship. The Creator would continue to pursue mankind through various means. He was not about to forsake the race he had painstakingly crafted from inception. He would not be coerced into abandoning his highest priority project. The battle between good and evil took on a distinctly new twist. This struggle reached a new intensity as both sides engaged in combat for the souls of men. The battle lines were drawn and the rules of engagement were established. This did not stop the hordes of darkness from using every dirty tactic they could get away with. The Creator sought to establish relationships with individual humans through that inner voice of conviction. A few listened and heeded, but many more completely disregarded those convictions. The Creator reached out to the ones who listened, by various means. The level of receptivity determined the appropriate means of communication. Dreams and visions were the primary means to get messages across to recipients. Cultivating awareness of that inner voice and direct manifestation of spirit beings were other means. Depending upon the level of response by the recipient, increased frequency and clarity would result. The powers of darkness did everything they could to blunt, nullify, distort or malign the voice of the Creator. The powers of light facilitated the voice and actions of the Creator in the life of those who chose to hear His voice. The forces of light and darkness were empowered by the humans, who chose one way or the other. Those who listened and focused on the ways of the Creator, empowered the agents of light to act on their behalf. The same was true for empowering the agents of darkness in promoting and working evil. Thus, the struggle ensued to liberate or enslave the hearts of men. Those men who took a stand for good, tended to keep evil at bay. While comprising a minority of humans, the truth of overpowering evil with good was abundantly evident. The powers of darkness could be constrained by a disproportionately insignificant tally of humans because mankind's goodness empowered a multitude of agents of light. Light always had the upper hand over darkness, but there would be no rest until darkness was completely vanquished. Every agent of light and darkness was intimately aware of every detail, of every plan, for every human, to ever be created. The sound of the Grand High Council Secretary's voice still reverberated throughout all creation, since the time of his original proclamations. Both sides of this conflict knew the destiny of each human and what was required to nurture or negate the fulfillment of such. The humans were the agents of change in this ultimate outcome. Their choice between light and darkness was a matter of life and death. This was the impetus behind the ongoing struggle of the ages. Plan revision. As the Grand High Council Secretary reflected upon this turn of events, he could not help feeling torn by the way things had gone so terribly awry. He had invested untold millenniums into lovingly crafting the plans for each individual human. Because he viewed everything from an eternal perspective, it was as though he knew every infinitesimal detail of each human, before they were even born. He already knew them better than they would know themselves. Being aware of every detail of their design and function, he could structure every component and circumstance of their entire lifespan. The Secretary contemplated only the best outcome for each human, which would remain true if they adhered to the path set forth by the Creator. The humans were endowed with a free will, which allowed for the possibility of deviation. The Secretary always believed the humans would want to follow the path, because of the wonderful benefits of doing so. Unfortunately, there would inevitably be those who chose not to comply. This was an unsettling proposition, to invest so much into this ambitious venture, only to have partial success. The members of the Messenger Guild were intimately aware of the Secretary's ponderings because they played such an active role in offering the scrolls for the humans. They served as the scribes to assist the Secretary in preparing each scroll. They were as cognizant as the Secretary himself, of the contents of each scroll and the possibility of success or failure, in every instance. As humans began to multiply, there was much room for dismay among these guild members and the secretary. Those adhering to the path set forth by the Creator was much less than desirable. The hordes of darkness exercised profound influence over many of the humans because they rejected the voice of the Creator. Thus, evil abounded and the downward trend of humanity spiraled out of control. At specific intervals, certain humans were raised up as beacons of light, to influence fellow humans not to deviate from the path. However, there were much more influencers of darkness and the situation was becoming hopeless. Why most humans rejected the good counsel of the Creator, in favor of darkness, was unfathomable. Something had to be done to arrest this downward trend. A revision to the original plan was formulated by the Creator. It was the only way humanity could be rescued from the evil that now enslaved them. This revision required someone to fulfill a vital role, for which no entity in all creation was qualified to perform. The only one who met the prescribed qualifications was the secretary himself. Known as the author of life, he was driven by devotion to the Creator's plan, especially relating to the human condition. He was the creative agent who instigated, crafted and facilitated every aspect of human replication. The secretary would be required for the Creator's plan of restoration to succeed. No member in the entire spirit realm could even begin to speculate how this revision would materialize. They would have to wait and see how these events would transpire. The secretary placed a high value upon being entrusted with this profound assignment. His intimate awareness of the dire plight of humanity impelled his outright participation in this act of rectification. The secretary's intervention would guarantee darkness would never be allowed to have the upper hand. The path leading to restoration of humanity would be blazed for those choosing to follow the Creator's ways. Behind the scenes, a flurry of spirit activity surrounded the accelerating population growth of humanity. The Messenger Guild was kept busy disseminating scrolls to the members of the Guardian Guild. Prior to human conception, the Creator arranged for a messenger to retrieve a copy of the scroll, for the life about to be activated. One of the messengers, stationed at the vault containing the appropriate scroll, would make a copy from the original. He handed the completed copy to the secretary for certification. The secretary tenderly received the scroll to verify it against the original. As he pondered over the contents of the two scrolls, he began to weep profusely. A flood of memories poured over him as he was instantly taken back to the time when he authored the original scroll. The composition of each scroll was a labor of love, from inception through finalization. Every detail of every scroll was painstakingly crafted with much care and devotion. The secretary took no abridgment in formulating the contents of these scrolls. Every infinitesimal detail was intently pondered before final inscription. The messenger would then be dispatched to the scene of conception, as the Creator was imparting life. The messenger would deliver the scroll to the appointed guardian, who would remain with the human until death. Every integral part of this operation was executed on cue and with perfect precision. It was wonderful to behold the functional intricacies comprising the formation of human life. This routine accompanied the impartation of every single human life. As the humans multiplied, so did the activity of the guild members involved in this process. As human proliferation of this world continued to accelerate, the powers of darkness intensified their feverish defiance of the Creator's plan. The agents of light could never afford to let down their guard, and heightened vigilance would not be allowed to diminish. This complicated everything the agents of light set out to accomplish, because darkness opposed them at every turn. Although the rules of engagement were strictly enforced, the Dark Lords pulled no punches when bending those rules to their advantage. Being motivated by hate did not impose the same constraints that restricted the Lords of Light. These imposed hindrances were not insurmountable. The strategies of the Creator always kept his loyal forces a step ahead of the enemy. This kept the agents of light at the top of their game, as they continually outflanked enemy forces. Opposing warriors employed every tactic to exploit the distinctly separate set of advantages in each side's arsenal, while maximizing the disadvantages of their opponent. The powers of light operated under self-imposed constraints, which did not inflict hate and destruction upon their foes. While darkness tried to capitalize on this restriction, the Creator's oversight of the situation provided weapons for the agents of light to repel these rancorous onslaughts. The most effective weapon employed by the powers of darkness was deception. The Prince of Darkness honed this device, with every permutation, to a distinctively fine art. For those lacking a full grasp of the truth, he effectively wielded a disproportionate advantage, entirely eviscerating any contender. Possessing and maintaining a firm grip on the truth was the most compelling apparatus to counter falsehood. Known as the father of lies, he excelled in every device attempting to bring the Creator into disrepute. The primary means of deception was outright denial of the existence of anything relating to the supernatural realm. If he could convince his subjects to deny the very reality of the Creator or the spirit realm, there was no incentive for them to live honorably. If there was no afterlife and no one to hold them accountable, living life without moral restraint was the logical conclusion. The main agenda for the powers of darkness was influencing humanity to successively accelerate into complete depravity. As mankind drifted farther from the Creator's influence, darkness abounded. Without a presumed higher power exerting a restraining influence, there was no limit to the extent evil was promulgated throughout this new world. The most difficult challenge for the forces of light was being forced to allow deception that darkness openly disseminated against the humans. The humans retained authority over the spirit realm, empowering them to promote or restrain evil. The forces of evil played this advantage to the hilt, in their influence of evil intent. Another tactic favored by the evil hordes was contriving an alternate truth. The best way to make a lie palatable to the masses is combining a little truth with outright lies or half-truths, enough to make everything seem believable. The problem for those drifting away from awareness of the Creator, rejecting the truth made them vulnerable to believing a lie. Being anchored to the truth is the only antidote for deception. Various elaborate belief systems were established, accompanied by false deities and complete theological fabrications. The counterfeit supreme being imposed demands upon his subjects, in exchange for the benefits of compliance. The advantage of this tactic was to enslave those subservient to these counterfeit deities, who were none other than former members of the covering guild. Planned disruption. The arsenal of weapons employed against humanity by the powers of darkness was extensive and diversified. The intense animosity harbored toward the members of this race inspired devious methods to exploit every minuscule weakness of these mortals. The ultimate weapon of choice ended in death, which could be launched through a plethora of means. This was not as straightforward as one would expect, since the rules of engagement required the act to be accomplished using indirect methodology. Agents of darkness could not simply encounter a human and annihilate them, without having to contend with the assigned Guardian Guild member and his supporting caste. There simply was no direct way to destroy a human life, without violating established protocols. Though the loyalty breach with the Creator did not allow humans to retain immortality, the Creator still maintained a level of protection over these beings. Darkness devised various methods to circumvent these protections by infiltrating natural defenses. The humans who chose to distance themselves from these protections became vulnerable to the powers of darkness. Evil exerted its influence in a variety of ways, intending to lure its subjects farther away from the dominion of light. Agents of darkness were resourceful in using various enticements to deceive and capture their prey. Unfortunately, the prey hardly ever realized the tragedy of deception until it was too late. Humans who fell sway to the ways of darkness rarely ever turned back to the light. The influence of darkness was so pervasive, those caught within its evil grasp ended up spiraling out of control. A specifically designated boundary existed between the natural, material world and the spirit world. However, thoughts, voices and various manifestations could penetrate both sides of the divide. The primary method of influencing humans was through planting thoughts and impressions in their minds and hearts. As the humans nurtured and reflected upon these thoughts and impressions, they eventually acted upon them, and the die was cast. Thus, the path became established for each individual human, toward light or darkness. The primary goal for the powers of darkness was inciting humans into deviating from the path destined by the Creator. One way to accomplish this was to induce them to choose a different path. This would open the door to discouragement, since humans were designed for personal fulfillment only when pursuing their predetermined destiny. All but the senior members of the Eternal Realm had limited capacity to act on their own accord. The same applied to the powers of darkness. As former members of the Eternal Realm, they were encumbered with these same limitations. Humanity yielded supreme ruling authority over the biosphere to the powers of darkness, because of indiscretion. However, they still retained a level of dominance over their environment. The primary ruling authority humans possessed was implemented through the power of proclamation. Depending upon the application, proclamation could be an expedient yet dangerous weapon. Much of humanity did not realize its full potential. It could be employed for good or evil, depending upon outside influences. The evil horde's prime directive was exploiting the misuse of proclamation for promoting their rancorous villainy. Human beings were created in the image of the Creator, so they possessed many of His attributes. Some of these same attributes were not possessed by the members of the Eternal Realm or the powers of darkness. The power of proclamation fell into that category. Humans could literally establish ambience within their existence through creatively vocalizing it. Creation itself had to respond, including beings in the Eternal Realm. The beings of the Eternal Realm were created to implement every proclamation by the Creator and His humans. This was intended to be a good thing but became perverted by the fall of humanity. The authority of proclamation provided authority to the agents of light or darkness, for acting upon each proclamation. The agents of both camps continuously and attentively listened for individual proclamations, which authorized and demanded immediate compliance. Darkness commenced their activity against each human by inciting them to curse their perceived circumstances. This established a sequence of events, which could bring them to the place of direct denial of the Creator's very existence. Even if the Creator's existence was not questioned, the subject could still be brought to a point of perceived detachment. If the Creator exercises restraint toward improving my circumstances, He must not care, so there is no reason to acknowledge Him, went the typical rationale. This served to drive a wedge between the individual human and his Creator. This resulted in a poisoned relationship, at best, and complete separation, at worst. When the moorings of a relationship with the Creator diminished, the attraction toward evil increased. The perception of the Creator's indifference to the misery of humanity served to accelerate the departure from His influence. Darkness embraced the disaffected humans with open arms as this downward descent hastened. This sequence of events served to spawn willing subjects for promoting evil at various levels. The hordes of darkness gladly enlisted these pawns to participate in their nefarious corruption. Plan unfolding. While the powers of darkness assimilated disconnected fragments of the complete plan, the Creator was the author of an exhaustive master plan for all humanity. This gave the agents of light a justifiable advantage over the evil hordes. Throughout the entire period of human history, the Creator never left the planet devoid of those unique individuals serving as generational torchbearers. The torchbearers provided articulation and presence, proclaiming the virtue of enacting the Creator's intent to a largely inexorable populace. The agents of light provided an impenetrable wall of defense for these brightly burning emissaries. Consequently, the powers of darkness had to commit a disproportional multitude of forces, attempting to minimize the propagation of light and its influence. Far too numerous were those who completely ignored the message proclaimed by these human flames, intensely burning for their creator. The primary way to silence these virtuous voices was inciting violence against them, which often culminated in murder. Though the ranks of these radiant emissaries thinned from time to time, the illumination factor was never completely extinguished. In fact, their brilliance was heightened when enemy aggression was most severe. Light always maintained superiority over darkness, irrespective of evil's protracted, overwhelming advance. This was the integral component of the Creator's strategic master plan. He ordained the times, placement and dispersion of these torchbearers, so humanity never lacked for their brilliant luminosity. The Creator propagated a constant unbroken stream of these uncommon individuals, to influence humanity throughout human history. The powers of darkness mimicked this strategy, only because it was so effective in promoting virtuous behavior. The depraved swarming minions were consistently positioned to thwart every aspiration of these blazing emissaries. Certain common principles operate the same, whether used for good or evil. Fashioning an apprentice into the desired mold has a comparable methodology for diverse applications. The determining factor of the outcome is the specific instruction received by the apprentice. The methodology relied upon is identical, whether applied for good or evil. With respect to the torchbearers, the apprenticeship analogy could not be more accurate. The instruction for the apprentice was provided by a sage who took an active interest in the prospective student. The instructor noted a spark that indicated the student displayed promise. The instructor's years of learning provided the mold, into which the new student was formed. The instructor completely invested himself into the success of his apprentice. This was the primary method of duplicating academic achievement in succeeding generations. The student was literally modeled after his teacher. This determinant kept the light burning within humanity and continued to illuminate this increasingly murky world. Passing knowledge from generation to generation was the most effective means of keeping the flame ignited. The unbroken chain of knowledge could be traced all the way back to the original humans, who received instruction directly from the Creator himself. It was part of the Creator's plan to mold humanity into His image, even as they were created in His image. Created in His image implies the available potential for success, integrated into an individual human's complete composition, spirit, soul, body. Molded in His image implies assimilating instruction, using it to build strong and noble character traits in the student. The training provided to the apprentice was rigorous and comprehensive. There were no alternatives for meeting this challenge. The enemy was unrelenting in his tactics, so there was no room for compromise. Precision was not optional because the enemy always sought to gain every advantage. Weakness was not an option, which is why a strong character was such a vital necessity. The apprentice had to be completely immersed in every facet of his instruction, well versed in a diverse scope of disciplines. He had to anticipate every vile tactic of the enemy and how to counter it. The teacher would not always be present, so the student was prepared to function unilaterally. Finally, the student became the teacher, so the cycle could be repeated. Fluctuations of innovation, within various civilizations throughout history, were directly proportional to the level of influence of these torchbearers. During times of peace and prosperity, their influence was pervasive. When their influence was held to a minimum, chaos and destruction reigned. Part of the Creator's plan included such concepts as peace, prosperity, abundance, creativity and innovation. The Prince of Darkness was in opposition to everything representing the Creator's benevolence, so he worked to unravel the advance of light. The result of his work represented the ills of humanity, including vice, theft, envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, greed, depravity and debauchery. This exemplifies classic order versus chaos syndrome. These torchbearers, in league with the Creator's agents of light, operated to mitigate the works of darkness. The goal for the Prince of Darkness was the complete annihilation of humanity. The Creator would never allow this to transpire. The Prince of Darkness was doomed to failure, but that did not prevent him from taking a substantial number of humans with him. The generational torchbearers performed a crucial role in averting humanity's self-destruction. Following the Creator's path resulted in peace and prosperity, while the opposite path led to death and destruction. These torchbearers were trailblazers, illuminating the path leading to the source of light. They did not simply direct potential light seekers, but provided guidance along the way. Whenever darkness fomented societal upheaval, light countered with a pervasive resurgence of wholesome values. Fighting fire with fire was not an effective battle strategy because a warring faction compromised their scheme in favor of the enemies. This gave the opponent a vital advantage in any conflict. A disciplined strategy required complete adherence to predetermined tactics, preventing the enemy from dictating the battle plan. The agents of light remained in strict compliance with the precision of the Creator's scheme, enabling them to hold the line in keeping darkness at bay. As human history progressed, the Creator artfully and strategically inserted an imperceptibly expanded volume of torchbearers into the equation. This maneuver was designed to keep darkness off balance. As the ebb and flow of light and darkness progressed through specific measurable cycles, the apex of light reached higher plateaus. The cycle meridians were associated with notable periods of renaissance. These golden ages caused darkness to acquiesce, but they always managed to resuscitate, again exerting their evil influence. The reinvigoration of the reign of darkness always accompanied civilization's decline. Periods of renaissance became increasingly pervasive as human history advanced. The influence of the Creator appeared to be triumphing over darkness. The revised plan was beginning to demonstrate signs of prevailing. This entire process was a protracted endeavor, but the Creator was completely aware of the outcome, so there were no exposed vulnerabilities. There was still much to accomplish, as humanity moved gradually closer to the light. However, the kingdom of darkness was not about to capitulate. The epical struggle between good and evil was far from over. The Prince of Darkness and his minions contrived various political, religious and philosophic systems to enslave the minds and hearts of humanity. Kingdoms were established and destroyed, civilizations were created and conquered, and conflict between nations was the status quo. Humanity was beginning to crave the influence of light, and the Creator's strategic placement of his blazing emissaries would reinforce wholesale renaissance. The magnitude of this awakening was unprecedented in this fallen world and would enkindle in many hearts a desire to follow the Creator's path. Infrastructure preparation for the plan's final element was proceeding as the Creator had intended. Human hearts were painstakingly remolded in accordance with virtuous principles. This was the result of the pervasive influence, furnished by the current rendition of radiant emissaries. Their latest propagation formed a mighty army of the Creator's most loyal subjects, effectually dispersed throughout the human realm. The stage was set for the imminent final act on the human scene. Plan fulfillment. The Creator regularly sojourned throughout the entirety of the human biosphere, seeking receptive hearts to establish his reign among humanity. As evil devices of darkness were increasingly being exposed, his cherished race of beings was becoming more responsive to his benevolence. Humanity was beginning to see the reign of darkness for what it was, and this carried a revulsion toward deception. The members of the eternal realm were starting to realize how allowing the hordes of evil to overplay their hand in promoting evil was instrumental in producing this change. What initially appeared as a hands-off approach to human events was now acknowledged as wielding a profoundly effective strategy. The author of life was about to enter the human scene. Though he had made several visible appearances into the human realm, this was vastly different. Those previous manifestations entailed a supernatural being breaking into the earthly realm in human form. He was about to take on human form in the same manner as other humans. He would be born, enter life as a child and grow to maturity. This was the only way he could experience the frailty of human existence. He would be the torch-bearer of torchbearers, and his mission was to display the light for all to see. His assignment was to actively demonstrate the full intent of the Creator's purpose for humanity, bringing them back into the relationship that was squandered by the original humans. The High Council's secretary was contemplating his entry into the human realm, as a flood of memories assailed every level of his sensibilities. He was taken back to the moment the Creator and he began devising the entire plan of creation. He remembered hardly being able to contain the excitement they shared. The brainstorming sessions were beyond description, as every extravagant concept was in process of being envisioned. He savored recollections of infinite epochs situated at a drafting table, formulating destinies for every human life. The profound affection he carried for these humans was beyond extravagant. This sentiment exceeded the bounds of simple collective emotional response. The secretary carried his affection for each individual human, not simply the race. He had no favorites, yet each was his favorite. The female had been chosen and the messenger guild announced the event. The young maiden, overcome with awe, responded with her willingness to participate. The Creator used the secretary's embedded code to form the seed, which he implanted within the mother. At the point of conception, the secretary's spirit was directly imparted into the developing infant. The author of life temporarily vacated his station in the heavenly realm to occupy a human body. The implications of this event were profound, beyond imagination. The secretary's entry onto the human scene transpired with minimum fanfare. Such humble beginnings for the master designer of all creation just seemed so out of character. He soon became intimately acquainted with the meager existence humans had to endure. Life was a struggle with opposition at every turn. He lived his life in this hostile environment and faced the challenges impeccably. The life he lived was a testing ground, providing examples for humans to emulate. When he took on human form, he not only left behind his position in the heavenly realm, he was also stripped of supernatural power. He had to face life as a human, embracing all limitations associated with this existence. The key to success in this venture was full adherence to the ways of the Creator. The Creator established a path for the secretary's human life, the same as all humans. The only advantage he possessed over other humans was an early assertion of the Creator's existence. As a young boy, he responded positively to the Creator's promptings. This established an enduring bond that flourished at an astounding rate. Though they enjoyed a unique kinship in the heavenly realm, the relationship in the present realm had to grow within the constraints of human development. When the secretary reached full human maturity, the connection between him and the Creator was fully operational. As the secretary attained manhood, he fully entered his calling. He was the light of the world and would be the standard for future torchbearers to follow. He amassed a significant multitude of adherents, who craved the wisdom of the ages. He was the teacher of teachers, revealing the Creator's heart to a disintegrating world. Though many embraced his message, the ruling class vehemently opposed his teachings. They looked upon his influence as a threat to their power structure. The powers of darkness were intensely agitated by the sequence of events leading up to this moment. The Creator's forces had maintained an impenetrable wall of protection for the secretary and his followers. Then the order came for the powers of light to stand down. They were incredulous that the Creator would abandon this successful advance. They were taking back so much territory, and now this? They trusted the Creator's tactics and knew he had a reason for this bewildering change of direction. The powers of darkness saw their opportunity and swarmed into position to fill the void vacated by the armies of light. The hordes of evil incited the civil authorities into capturing the secretary, holding a mock trial and executing this human from the heavenly realm. Everything turned so abruptly, that humans and guild members alike were caught completely off guard. They were left having to endure a deafening shriek, voiced by the victorious dark minions. It seemed all hope was lost, when the powers of darkness seized the secretary's spirit, as he was departing from his lifeless form. They imprisoned the secretary, to inflict unimaginable torture upon him, enduring the consequences of a lawless humanity. From the secretary's perspective, his torment continued for a multitude of eternities. He relived every moment, of formulating every plan. He endured the seemingly unending repercussions of the morally flawed humans. He satisfied the requirements of atonement, for every human wrong. After some unimaginable expanse of time, the Creator deemed the price for the ransom of humans, as paid in full. The voice of the Creator boomed throughout every realm in existence, "It is finished, release him now." The kingdom of darkness reeled, as it was rocked to the core. They were jubilant when victory appeared to be theirs. Victory was violently snatched from them, as their doom was now sealed. The secretary's spirit was instantly released from the torture chamber. He triumphantly escorted a column of human spirits into the heavenly realm. They lived their lives, exercising moral restraint, by following the path of light. He joyfully presented these ransom trophies to the Creator, as they received their full reward, and guild members joined in ecstatic jubilation. In the human realm, 3 days had passed and the secretary's followers were aghast with deep despair. In an instant, the secretary's spirit infused his lifeless corpse. His body metamorphosed from a temporal to an eternal physique, instantly defeating death and the grave. He earnestly sought out his closest followers and proclaimed the victory, which had just occurred. He was victorious over death itself, and humans were no longer denied access to the heavenly realm. The Creator's plan to restore the relationship, enjoyed between him and the first humans, was now complete. The secretary's physical habitation among humans, now came to an end, as he was restored to his position, in the heavenly realm. It was now left for his followers to raise up the new generation of torchbearers, to proclaim the secretary's message of relationship restoration with the Creator. The hearers of this message would have to embrace it, to live a completely fulfilled life. These torchbearers would continue their mission until the fullness of time, when all humanity received the message of truth and darkness was completely vanquished. In the meantime, the followers of the Creator were given the ability to simultaneously coexist in 2 realms. Their human frame was mostly restricted to the confines of the natural biosphere, while their spirit could soar into the supernatural heavenly realm. This important distinction enabled them to fully live out their lives, in the fullness that the Creator intended from the very beginning. The outcome for the author of life, reaping and bearing the consequences for errant humanity, was restoring a relationship with humanity and securing eternal life for them. Destiny's design and fulfillment was complete. What next? How does the preceding narrative apply to us, and what should be our response to this perspective? First and foremost, dream and dream big. No dream is too big. In this case, bigger is better. Next, do not let anyone or anything keep you from realizing your full potential. Finally, keep your focus and filter out all distractions. What is the difference between someone who lives their dream and others who never realize their dream? What separates the two? Those who refuse to be talked out of realizing their dream are unstoppable. No one can tell them any different. They refuse to be dissuaded. They rarely, if ever, stop believing. They just seem to have that inner knowing, of a destiny waiting to be fulfilled. We all know someone like this. Pay attention and learn from them. People with this mindset are virtually unrestrainable in attaining their aspirations, to the point of being consumed. No obstacle is too great for them to surmount. No one can ever talk them out of pursuing their dream, nor would few even dare try. If you spend much time around this rare type of person, it does not take long to discern these motivating factors. Why is this such a rarity among those numbered among humanity, when it should be the norm? For the rest of us ordinary mortals, this just seems a little extreme. In fact, we live in a day where the extreme is glorified. We crave success and living our dreams, but we settle for a mundane existence every time. This differentiates the dreamers who turn their dreams into reality and those who do not. Much of humanity chooses the effortless way out because it is more predictable and less work. In the final analysis, pursuing your dreams requires challenging work and devotion. It takes work to believe in yourself and put into action whatever will bring your dreams into reality. Unstoppable dreamers embrace the required actions as not being burdensome for them. Devotion to reaching desires triggers them on toward achievement of chosen pursuits. When we see an individual living their dream, we are only aware of the result. All the arduous work and sacrifice, which resulted in achieving success, escaped our direct observation. Unless that individual is a personal acquaintance, we never get an inside track on their progression toward success. Truly successful individuals can envision the destination, while thoroughly enjoying the journey. Life is a journey, and if you are not enjoying the ride, it probably will not be any different once you reach your destination. Even though we find life to be a daily drudgery, we somehow delude ourselves into thinking it will suddenly change when we reach the climax. The person we are becoming is that same person who is progressing toward that ultimate point of arrival. Living your dream demands willingness to act, bringing it to fruition. It is your dream and you have the sole responsibility for its materialization. The reasons for not living your dream are plentiful, but how bad do you really want it? If you do not allow anyone or anything to impede your progress, you will aspire to your desires. Vision and tenacity are required to proceed on this journey. Discouragement and procrastination are your worst enemies. Having an unobstructed vision of how to reach your goals and following through will effectively combat discouragement. Tenacity will defeat procrastination and will also work to battle discouragement. Vision and tenacity work well together in keeping you motivated. Motivation is paramount and momentum keeps you moving in the right direction. Motivation is the spark that gets you started and helps to build momentum. Once you build the necessary momentum, it takes less motivation to keep the process in motion. This operation works like a chain reaction and has the potential for moving you in the direction of achieving your dreams. This is no different than the basic laws of motion, which keep the entire natural universe in operation. Natural laws of physics can provide helpful analogies to explain human behavior. It is amazing to note the parallels between these two areas of study, which seems to imply a certain unity in creative order. Our first course of action is to eradicate every worthless encumbrance. We dedicate our lifetime to accumulating extraneous paraphernalia that serves only to detract and detain us from reaching our goal. We must destroy the barricades which tend to impede progress toward our desired destination. Be prepared to invest a generous amount of time and effort, reversing acquired mindsets, behavior patterns, and conditioned responses. Mastering this new lifestyle does not materialize instantaneously or painlessly. We must discard our stagnant pursuance, in exchange for acquiring a fresh approach to realizing our dreams. The most effective way to implement this new lifestyle is to stop focusing on negative mindsets, which engender corresponding behavior and response. As a man thinks, is a universal principle, which is a crucial life application for success. You are, as you think. That is the reason for dreaming big. Big dreams lead to big thoughts, which lead to big actions. This accelerates you down that road of success. Forcing your mindset into alignment with your dreams is the most empowering and liberating activity in which you can engage. Acquiring and adhering to this fresh mindset is key to realizing all your dreams, but in no way denies reality. Instead, it allows you to embrace every challenge life throws your way. Life's barricades can now be viewed as discovering new methods for inspiring innovation. A fresh mindset must be accompanied by words and a lifestyle that are not in conflict. The words of your mouth will establish the baseline for your surrounding existence. Words create worlds. While this may sound like an oversimplification, this is abundantly evident in our daily experience. An unrenewed mindset may agree with the following statement: if it was not for bad luck, I would not have any luck at all. If you accept this in a negative context, why would it not work the same in a positive context? This universal principle applies to both contexts. A renewed mindset in sync with your dreams translates into positive vocalization, activating your dreams. You ignore this, to your detriment. This is a crucial part of the action plan for realizing your dreams. When I say, not to let anyone or anything keep you from realizing your full potential, that first anyone is you. We are snared by the words of our mouth, and we need to be cognizant of how we derail our own destiny. Keeping your focus and filtering out all distractions is a final important key to realizing your dreams. It is a given that distractions abound in life and the society we live in. Aim for your well-defined goal and maintain a high priority on reaching for it. Life happens, but you must surmount the obstacles and you will succeed. Concluding thoughts. All I have said thus far will help you achieve success. These are universal principles. However, if you neglect a relationship with the Creator, you are missing out on the most valuable ingredient for success. There is a reason you have made it to this juncture of my narrative. The God who loves and cares deeply for you arranged this moment in the days of antiquity. What follows is a historical summary of the Creator's plan for humanity. After forming this planet and populating it with every life form imaginable, He placed within it a man and a woman as caretakers. He instructed them to be fruitful and multiply, but inserted a single note of caution: refrain from eating the fruit of a tree in the middle of a certain garden. The footnote added to this cautionary warning was, on the day you eat of this said fruit, you shall die. Now the case could be made, concerning a loving God. Why would the lure connected with such a dire consequence be placed right in the center of one's existence? The answer to this question is multifaceted. The man and woman were given a quest to prove their loyalty to their Creator. If the lure to break the loyalty pact is located directly in the center of their existence, this would be a true test of loyalty. Also, if the one demonstrating loyalty was inclined to deviate from the pact, the proximity of the lure would have absolutely no bearing. Entering upon the scene is the spoiler, who was filled with jealousy over the love and relationship shared between God and these two created beings. The spoiler was at odds with the Creator and devised a plan to lure the man and woman away from the protection of the Creator. The spoiler isolated the woman and got her to focus on the beauty and desirability of the forbidden fruit. Why would the Creator want to deprive you of such a desirable fruit, he reasoned. The woman yielded to the spoiler's logic and persuaded the man to partake of the fruit along with her. As soon as they shared the forbidden fruit, they realized the deception of the spoiler. They tried in vain to disguise the fact of their deception, but the Creator was completely aware of the breach. When they tried to shift the blame to the other individuals involved, it only sealed the curse they brought upon themselves. This act of indiscretion broke the loyalty pact between the Creator and His creation. The beautiful relationship in the garden was now tarnished, beyond repair. Death now entered upon the human scene. God Himself breathed life into man and he became a living being, created in God's own image. When God was removed from the equation through this loyalty breach, death began its cruel reign. Yet God had a plan to restore the breach and renew the relationship. The plan involved God Himself entering the human scene, through the seed of a woman. He would live the perfect life, fulfill every impossible expectation and pay the supreme sacrifice, with his very own lifeblood. It was the only way, a life for a life. This was the only acceptable form of payment for redemption. On the third day, that holy seed planted in the grave, rose from the dead never to die again. The good news is, anyone who believes these words and puts their faith in the sacrifice and resurrection of the Savior, Jesus of Nazareth, will have eternal life. Best of all, you will be empowered to live victoriously in the here and now. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. John 3 verse 16, New International Version of the Bible. This is your opportunity to begin a relationship with the Creator, based entirely upon the requirements fulfilled by Jesus of Nazareth. Acknowledge living a life of moral deviation, receive the clemency he offers and embark upon a new journey of complete freedom. Just talk to him. He is waiting to hear from you.